Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Kerbal Space Program. Here we are, orbiting the moon, and I was having some trouble figuring out how to set Kerbin as our target in order to match our orbital inclination the same way we did on the way over here. So I went and looked up on the internet, like some other people asking a similar question. And something I mentioned in the previous video was is there some reason that it doesn't make sense to do this? And the threads that I found on the internet indicate that yes, there is a reason it makes no sense to do this. Broadly, that we're already in orbit around Kerbin, right? We are in the moon's orbit around Kerbin. And in order to get from a lunar orbit into a Kerbal orbit? A Kerbin orbit? I'm not sure which of those words to use. We don't actually have to do a ton of burning here to escape the moon and line our orbit up with Kerbin again. Because we're already in orbit around it. All we need to do is escape orbit of the moon, and we'll be in orbit around Kerbin. It doesn't matter what our inclinations are like. We'll be headed roughly, we can then adjust our orbit, on the way back. So basically all we have to do is burn anywhere to get out of the moon's orbit. So what we could do is we could burn prograde here, and that would extend our orbit in this direction, and eventually we would break free, I think. But I think that that's silly because well, I say I think it's silly. The forum threads I saw were that's not really the thing to do. The idea is just to see which way the moon is moving with respect to Kerbin. Which way is the moon moving with respect to Kerbin? It's going this way, right? Like this? How can I tell that? These two lines are different colors, but which one is forward? Let's see, if I line the planet up like this, does Kerbal disappear? Yeah, it does. What does that tell me? So, we want to be... Right now, we're seeing our orbit in the context of the moon, but we also have an orbit with regard to Kerbin right now, right? Which is this sort of elliptical lunar orbit that we see here. And so, in a sense, our Kerbin apoapsis is changing every time we orbit. If we want to consider our apoapsis as here, which is this is the closest we ever get to Kerbin, right here, and this is the furthest we get. So ideally, we would like to break the moon's orbit while as close to Kerbin as possible. That's here. And to break the moon's orbit, we just want to burn retrograde, that is to say, away from the direction the moon is currently moving, which is why I'm trying to figure out which way is the moon moving. Well, let's put a maneuver here. And let's say I went to burn prograde here. What would happen? We go the wrong... Ah! Well, it's not the wrong way. Exactly. We escape the moon headed that away. That's not what I want. So can I escape the moon headed the other way? Like this? If we just burn in the other direction? No. This is bringing our orbit... This is slamming us into the moon, right? Is what this is doing. We don't want to do that, I think. Wait. Yeah, if we burn retrograde here, we're just going to slam into the moon, basically, right? Whoa! Is that right? What's going to happen? Whoa. So let's zoom further into the moon and see what happens. We're... Alright, clear this encounter node. I need to start over. I messed stuff up. I don't know what I'm doing. Let's say that right here, which is the closest we ever get, we add a maneuver. 2 minutes away. If we from here burn retrograde from the direction we're traveling, it should slam us into the moon real quick, right? Yes, correct. So let's not do that. We should burn prograde. That'll extend our orbit away from the moon, sending us, like, in a weird lunar orbit this way. But we're not actually going to be in lunar orbit because we'll escape the moon's orbit. Right? We're going to keep going like this until, ta-da! We're no longer in lunar orbit. And if we burn more, we'll get out of lunar orbit sooner and further, less far away from Kerbin. Oh no, I grabbed the wrong damn node. Ugh! I don't know how to reset just like part of this, so let's just do another one. Well, actually, let's just orient to prograde right now, please. And we're already at, like, the place we want to be. Let's just burn a lot right now. Make sure we're not slamming into the moon. Apoapsis is going up. Alright, let's throttle up all the way. And just keep going until we escape the moon and see what happens. How are we for fuel? Still got a lot. Alright, let's stop for a moment and have a look at what we've done. We've got a very wide orbit around Kerbin. Right? This is strange. This isn't what I wanted at all. What's this doing to our... Well, this is getting us back into Kerbin-controlled space, so to speak. But... it's not quite doing it the way I wanted. I feel like it would have been better to shoot from the other side of the moon towards Kerbin, lowering our... keeping an elliptical orbit around the moon to shoot us that way. They had this advice... they're not wrong. Doing it this way, we do get into Kerbin orbit, but it seems like it's going to be a lot of work to lower our periapsis into the atmosphere. Maybe it won't be. I don't know. Well, can I just like warp to here, please? I hope we haven't done anything too disastrous. But anyway, we're escaping lunar orbit, and now with respect to Kerbin, we're only going 212 meters per second. So hopefully, bringing our periapsis down shouldn't be. I feel like this was the wrong way to leave the moon. It would have been way better to shoot ourselves, slingshot ourselves towards Kerbin than away from it. I feel like I must have done something wrong, or misunderstood the advice that I saw on the forums. Maybe could have just stuck with doing things the way that made sense to me, but these guys seem to... what they said also made sense. It was like, oh yeah, just leave the moon's atmosphere, or moon's sphere of influence, and you'll be headed back to Kerbin. Well, you know, we're in a Kerbin orbit, but we're not exactly headed back to Kerbin by any means right now. We're accidentally headed, like, all the way to Minmus now. We're not... 10 days! This is the most roundabout trip home from the moon Jeb could possibly have imagined. 10 days. Oh my gosh. I say 10 days because we want to get to Apoapsis, where it's most efficient to return ourselves back, to lower our Kerbin periapsis. Alright, this is clearly the wrong way to have done this. But let's just sort of do it anyway. Say we add a maneuver here, and we want to burn retrograde. Alright, it doesn't take hardly at all to get there, right? Hardly any. Just like that. 8 seconds. Well, Alright, that tells me that it's probably perfectly fine to do this burn here as well, right? Hello? Cancel this maneuver, please? Cancel. We should be able to do something pretty reasonable here. If we just were to add a maneuver, like, right where we are, add a maneuver, burn, retrograde, how much would it take to bring this orbit back down to something reasonable? Yeah, not much at all. That's 600 kilometers. 400 kilometers. 409. Alright, let's aim for something like this. Yeah, it's just a 30-second burn. We don't want to make Jeb wait 10 days to save 20 seconds worth of fuel. We have enough fuel. So let's just do this burn now. Oriented retrograde, please. And we'll keep an eye on our periapsis and just turn on the engines. Let's go. So I feel like this was definitely the wrong way to have left the moon. I'm basically now doing exactly the burn that I could have done from the moon, but I'm now no longer getting the assistance from the moon. What the heck is happening to our orbit here? Stay still, periapsis. We're like slingshotting back around the moon. Okay, well, fine. Wait, no, stop! This is wrong. We're making things bigger. The moon is grabbing us and throwing us in the wrong direction again. So this is what in the world? We've re-entered the moon's sphere of influence by doing this burn. Oh my gosh. We're gonna escape, but we'll go that way now. So this is what I feel like we should have done in the first place, right? We'll be getting pretty close to Kerbin, and we can bring it in then, I guess. I don't know, man. Let's just, once we escape the moon again... Oh my gosh. Is there a way to say, like, warp to my next encounter? I thought there was, but I don't see it. We'll just warp to here. This is the dumbest escape from moon ever. I'm glad we brought extra fuel, and no tourists to think we're idiots. Okay. So we are now... Are we still in moon orbit? No, right? Where are we? Oh yeah, we're still in moon orbit. We're almost at moon escape. So... let's just warp a bit further. And once we have escaped the moon, we can get back to that burn we were doing a minute ago. We had to kind of undo it because the moon was fiddling with stuff. Okay. We sort of like, what path did we describe around the moon? Like we were orbiting this way, and then we orbited ourselves further around to here, and then once we were here, we like burned this way again, and we got caught by the moon and swung around like this. It's just really idiotic, really. But okay, let's add a maneuver here, well away from the moon. Burn retrograde a bit. Keep our periapsis in mind, please. Yeah. That's a little bit deep. Let's just set it to like 120. Alright, it's a very, very short burn here. So we're already on a return trajectory, almost. We just need to adjust things a tiny bit. How do I warp to this maneuver? Oh, I can warp to the next maneuver. Whoa! Oh, I didn't realize that that was on the other side. I thought we were going this way, and that we could warp here to adjust. Okay. We could have done a burn up here on this side and adjusted it, I think. But, okay, whatever. Sorry you had to waste your time circling around the planet one more time. Little Kerb, whatever his name is, Neil Bald. His fellow pilots are going to laugh at him for the complication of his return from the moon, but you know, he's going to be home, and that's what counts. So we're still 2 hours away. Yeah, let's warp to like... Yeah, stop the time warp. Warp to here. And... very good. Get yourself towards retrograde. And we just want to lower it a bit. This is setting it to like... It's hardly... Oh geez, we're still 15 minutes away. I'm a little bit antsy about warping past this point, but I guess the exact point itself is not a huge issue. We're only burning for 2 seconds. A little bit of inefficiency is not going to kill us. Still, I do like to be precise. And stop. Cool. So if we burn even a little bit too much, we'll bring our periapsis much lower than we intended. Plunging into the atmosphere. It would be nice to have time to circularize our orbit and come in not quite so steep. Alright, let's burn here. I'm burning gently to make sure I don't overshoot. Yeah, alright. I actually sort of did overshoot because I hit the wrong button to cut the engines. I switched to map view instead of turning off the engine. Alright, so our periapsis is very low, and we can spend the rest of our fuel at periapsis to make our orbit a bit gentler. So we'll add a maneuver here to burn retrograde. For, I don't know, keep that in mind, and this ought to be reasonable, I think. We have, this is still 1,000,000 meters. I feel like we could probably get away with just burning everything here, and that would slow us down enough to land on the planet. But in case I'm wrong about that, I don't want to spend all of our fuel on it. I just want to get the orbit lower so that we're not coming in quite as hot in the re-entry. It's starting to get kind of expensive to adjust the orbit, really. So maybe just like this. 37 seconds worth of burn. I think we have that much. I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it, and maybe instead of actually burning this long, we'll just burn until we don't have that much fuel left, and then use the rest of it to lower our periapsis into atmosphere. So... let's... which way are we going? I don't understand whether the dark gray is where we've been or where we're going. Alright, we seem to be going this way. Right? Yes. Okay. So let's warp to... around here. Well, I'll make it here to be safe. Well, I thought it was going to be a real short third video to get home, but it turns out we made it much more complicated than we really had to, and had to adjust things multiple times. I'm glad we had a lot of extra fuel. It could have been a problem if we didn't. Maybe I would have been less cavalier if we had less fuel to spare. Alright, so get yourself pointed... oh, he's doing it already. Pointed to retrograde. Good work, buddy. We're still 7 minutes away, so let's actually go a bit further forward. We just want to burn for, it says, 37 seconds. I don't know how much fuel we have left. Is there a way I can find that out? Like, how long can I burn at full speed with this? Stage view? I don't know what that did. Well, whatever. Let's just leave the map view. Like... I don't know how much fuel per second the engine is burning. How long will it take us to get that much used up? I don't know. Okay. Let's do a quick test burn here and see how much it... actually, if we do that, we'll just re-enter the atmosphere, won't we? Yeah, I think so. So let's not. We're going 3,000 meters per second. I'm pretty sure we've done a burn like this, but even gentler, and been just fine. But let's play it safe. We have a lot of valuable science on board, and Jeb. And we don't... Not Jeb. Neil Bald. We don't want to risk it just for expedience, so... Let's wait till we're, you know, a little over a minute away from the node. And... Is he still oriented retrograde? He is, okay. And then just throttle up while keeping an eye on our liquid fuel engine. See if we can really survive 37 seconds of this. It looks that way. What's happening to our periapsis, though? It's coming down, but not all that much. Okay, let's keep an eye on that, though. We don't want it to get below 70 kilometers and send us crashing into the atmosphere. Liquid fuel is still fine. Kerbal, what is happening? I can't see our periapsis, please. 80... Alright, get rid of this dang maneuver node. Our periapsis is still 82 kilometers. We still have a bunch of fuel. We're still pointed retrograde. Let's lower it a bit more. Alright, we're in a roughly circular orbit. I'll take it. And now, when we get back to apoapsis, we'll do one last burn to just bring us slightly, ever so slightly, into the atmosphere. Wow, even that was too much, huh? That'll do it. So we're burning like no fuel at all out there. And then when we come back around, actually, yeah, whatever. We'll just do it this way. I don't think this burn is really that useful. I think if we just burn a little bit more retrograde here, we might just fall straight into the atmosphere. But we'll do things the proper way, according to the plan that I made, even though it's not totally clear that it's useful. This, I think, is the gentlest way we can re-enter the atmosphere. And I think that that is a good idea. We don't want to mess anything up. We don't really have to burn exactly at apoapsis either. We could... Any burn out here that's retrograde will send us into the atmosphere at some point. But, I don't know. How do I warp to the maneuver, please? Sometimes I can warp to next maneuver, and sometimes I can't. I don't understand why. Warp to next maneuver. Okay. Well, that seems to work. Keep an eye on our periapsis. It's going down, and we're just barely spending any fuel on this. If we were really professional, we would just barely touch the atmosphere, bounce off of it, and brake a little bit that way. But we have enough fuel to spare that... stop! I meant to cut the engines, not set them to max. We have enough fuel left now that once we get... We're headed back into the atmosphere, for sure. And once we're over there, we'll spend it all burning retrograde to reduce our impact velocity, or not impact velocity, re-entry velocity. So we'll put a maneuver here, even though I don't really plan to do it. Actually, let's just warp. How long did it take us to get out of here, you dang maneuver node? How far away is periapsis? 21 minutes away. So let's warp to like 19 minutes away. Or 18. No, I added a maneuver. Knock it off. Delete that. Warp to here. Okay. Very complicated return trajectory, but we're going to do it. Whew. What's our altitude looking like at the moment? Oh, we're already back in the atmosphere. Okay. Just barely. So... yeah, and our orbital speed is reasonable. 2.5 kilometers per second. We've done worse than that. I guess it would have been nice to aim ourselves out over an ocean, huh? Is there any way I can conveniently fix that? If I thrusted up here, it would lower our inclination to this way, but I don't think we have enough fuel to actually make that happen. I think we're just going to have to come down over the mountains and live with it. Or the South Pole? Is that what that is? No. This is the North Pole up here, I think. Down at the bottom, that looks like the South Pole. So we're coming in roughly equatorial over, I don't know what exactly. Where is the Space Center? I don't know. It's hard to tell. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so we're coming back into the atmosphere here. We're like 50 seconds away from our periapsis. So let's make sure we're oriented retrograde, Jeb. Retrograde? Good. It's not Jeb, sorry. Sorry, Neilbald. And just burn it all away. Get rid of as much velocity as we can. And then dump this stage before we re-enter the atmosphere with it. Which we're actually perilously close to doing. I'm glad I... Whoa! Wobbly. Who knows what that was about? Not me. It would have been more polite to burn this up out in space and let it orbit than to let it smash into a continent somewhere and kill people, but there it goes. So that's going to come down somewhere. Sorry. And are we still retrograde? Yeah, I can say prograde, and he'll do it, but we don't want to. We actually want to be retrograde. Wow, look at that control. He can really whip this thing around. And we're coming in at a very stately, sedate, calm, just under 2 kilometers per second. We've done much worse than this. So honestly, I think I can just leave this landing in Jeb's hands. Re-entry effects starting in a couple of kilometers now. As I recall, around 45 kilometers is when I usually notice. Okay, 48. But I think this ought to be just fine. Let's just listen to those re-entry effects as they start up. I can't hear them yet, but they're coming. I'm so glad we have a pilot who can keep things pointed at retrograde for me. That's the hardest part of re-entry for me. Did we forget again to put the heat shield on? I'm so glad this service bay is stable enough to do this. But for the tourist ship, we really should put a heat shield on. Let's... hang on. I want to look at the manual. Can I not do that while we're paused? I can. There was a button. Controls. General flight. General controls. Toggle temperature overlay. What happens if I press F7, F11? It's here? Huh. Things are pretty hot. Okay. Temperature gauges disabled. So I want the gauges on, the highlight off. This is the default view. But we can see just how hot various parts of the ship are this way. That's kind of cool. It's getting pretty hot here, I guess. Makes sense. That's the part pointing at the fire. And I think pretty soon we should start recovering, right? Or start falling out of all this fire. Great. We've survived re-entry. This service bay, it's pretty good. I like it. It seems to be able to handle like things just as well as a heat shield. And it's protecting our valuable science. So, how about the parachute? Not ready to deploy that yet, I guess. Unsafe to deploy. Now it's risky. Now it's safe. So let's just deploy it. It'll take care of itself, I think. We'll just set it like, I don't know, like that. There we go. Partially deploy it at like almost no pressure. And now it's gonna gently slow us down. And so allegedly, it seemed to me from reading the instructions, this altitude is supposed to be relative to the ground you're over, not relative to sea level. So in principle, it should still deploy 1,000 meters above wherever we're about to land. I don't have a lot of faith in that, so I might set it a bit higher if I get panicky. But it's hard to tell exactly how far away we are from the surface, so I'm going to give it a little bit of breathing room here. Alright, I'm starting to get nervous. There we go. So I set it to 2050, and I think it deployed sooner than that from the height that it was actually at. So maybe it really would have been fine, but okay, well, whatever. We cost ourselves a few seconds in to ensure that we didn't blow up a multiple day flight. So I think that that's fair. And how high was the terrain we were coming in and over anyway? Is there a way to change whether this is surface or sea level? Maybe that's the thing. One of these might just tell me how... Whoa, what blew up? Nothing important, apparently. Everything important is still here. Let's recover this vessel before things change. There shouldn't have been anything left, right? We didn't have a heat shield, apparently. Couldn't find one. Is the heat shield like... Maybe the heat shield is inside the service bay instead of outside of it? And it's blowing up when we land and crushing it or something? I don't know. Anyway, we picked up 95 science, so that's pretty cool. Parts, we recovered some of it. Crew, we gained some more experience for Neilbald. Great. Great work. Did we get any more stuff happening? Yes, we have performed a spacewalk in orbit of the moon. Oh. World first milestones. I just did that for the science, but okay, great. Now we've returned home from orbit of the moon. And we completed our contract about orbiting the moon. Twice, I guess. We've taken our first steps towards exploring the moon. Let's keep going and see where it takes us. Got a bunch of money? Great. All right. Whew, a successful series of episodes culminating, I guess, or comprising a successful mission. Great news. Everyone's back and safe, and I think we could do a much simpler version of this mission to take a few tourists on a flyby of the moon. If we can orbit the moon, we can do anything. So that'll be coming up real soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.